Hello, dear polymer clay enthusiasts. I'm Mihaela from Learn Polymer Clay, and I'm back with more inspiration for your work with polymer clay. This is day 2 of the Use Your Scrap Clay challenge, and I have prepared a sweet and short tutorial for you. And I hope that you will be inspired to use your scrap clay and make beautiful jewelry pieces, and in the same time declutter your work area, your studio. Let's dive into the tutorial. So as always, I started by properly conditioning the clay. I'm using scrap clay that I have mixed and conditioned and passed through the largest setting of my pasta machine. Then I applied silver foil on the back of the piece, and then I flipped the piece over and I applied the silver foil on top of the piece as well. I'm using my fingers to gently burnish the foil into the polymer clay, and then I removed the excess foil, and I will store it for other projects. I will save it for other projects. And then using stays and black ink and a stamp, I impressed a seahorse pattern into the polymer clay and into the foil as well, and I pressed with a lot of pressure on the stamp because I wanted to have an embossed look on the piece. And then using my craft knife and in some areas a zigzag motion, in other areas a straight line, I cut all around the design. And of course you can use any stamp that you like with this idea, and there are so many stamps, so many themes, so many designs, so you will have plenty of possibilities to play with this idea. Then I removed the scrap clay, and don't forget that when you are using your craft knife to cut all around the design, it is very important to take the time and smooth off the edges. If not, you are going to have a piece with rough edges and you have to sand the piece after baking the polymer clay piece. But in order to avoid doing the sanding part, which I don't particularly like, I prefer to take the time and smooth off the edges. I'm using my hands, I'm using the back of my craft knife, the handle of my craft knife, and the handle of a needle tool. And I'm doing my best to do a good job when smoothing the edges. Then I will apply piñata alcohol inks on top of the piece, but before doing so I will protect my working table, so I'm putting a piece of a plastic sheet underneath the polymer clay piece. And you might even consider protecting your hands using gloves, because working with alcohol inks is a wonderful thing, but it's a messy thing in the same time. I used red piñata alcohol ink, yellow and sapphire blue, and in some areas I helped the colors to mix to turn into orange or green. You can use paintbrushes to paint your piece. And I decided to paint the borders of the piece in red where I had red on top, in green or yellow when I had green or yellow on top, and using blue for the tail of the seahorse. And I thought that this would make my piece look nice when finished, because I didn't want the look of the piece with the color of the scrap clay showing through. And as you can see, when working with inks and applying them straight from the bottle, it is very difficult to control the quantity that you are applying. So I've got a mixture of inks underneath the piece, which in the same time will color the back of the piece, and this is precisely why I applied the silver foil underneath, because I wanted to have on the back of the piece the same effect that you get, the same beautiful effect that you get when putting together foils and alcohol inks. And don't forget to use varnish, not dimensional varnish, any kind of varnish in 2 layers, I'd say, to protect the back of the piece, because when you are using foils you have to remember to apply varnish to protect the areas that you decorated with the foils. Then I decided to use some Monty beads and press them into the polymer clay. First I wanted to decorate the belly of the seahorse, but then I changed my mind and I thought that it would look even nicer if I used these Monty beads to decorate the spine of the seahorse. So I'm just pressing them into the polymer clay, and I don't worry about them going into the oven, because these Monty beads are in fact small crystals in a metal frame, so you can bake the piece with such beads inside. And I'm not worried about them coming off when wearing the design, because after baking the piece for 40 minutes at the temperature recommended by the polymer clay manufacturer, I will apply diamond glaze, which is glaze and a glue in the same time, and this will help keeping these Monty beads in their securely stuck in their place. You'll have to decide if you are going to use this piece as a pendant, so you'll have to poke a hole, or if you are going to use it as a brooch and add the brooch component. And then I applied diamond glaze, and this is a product that worked fine for me in the past, but you will have to check and see if this kind of product works well in the weather conditions where you are living, because there are mixed feelings about diamond glaze. I like it very much, personally. I hope that you liked this short tutorial, short and sweet, I hope. And I hope that it will inspire you to use your scrap clay and declutter your work area. Please share your impressions with me. Please press the like button if you like the tutorial, and stay tuned for more inspiration for your work with polymer clay. Thank you.